Hey, greetings, namaste, nanu nanu, and all that good shit to my fellow indigo children, star seeds, light workers, anyone who has ascended to the next level. And if you have ascended to the next level, I'm totally going to be speaking your language here today, and I think we're really going to feel each other. Oh my goddess, you guys. I have consumed nothing for the last 48 days besides pure, unadulterated sunlight, fresh air, and wheatgrass. And I have to say, I feel amazing. I am having like this totally out-of-body experience where I'm like seeing everything and the colors are super vivid and surreal. And the information is just coming in so fast because I've like totally decalcified my pineal gland. And what I've come to realize is I'm like this spirit having a human experience, but this physical body, it's like a cage. And I can totally ascend it at any time to join my brothers and sisters in light on the 5th dimension anytime I want. Except for now, I'm starting to think that maybe I should stay here on the earthly plane for just a little bit longer so that I can like preach the gospel and save the other people who don't have this information, whose pineal glands are like totally calcified and they're like totally ignorant and going along in this prison planet, and they have like no idea that they too are spirits having this human experience, and that what we really need to do is transcend this reality. So I'm gonna like start wearing a bindi on my head and making these really educational YouTube videos, and I think you guys are gonna really love it. So yeah, namaste, right? Nanu nanu, peace. Welcome to Kick-Ass Switch, putting the K in magic. I'm Joanna DeVoe, and you're watching a video about the spiritually homeless and how magic, actually, witchcraft to be specific, saved me from getting lost in space and becoming one of those people that I was lovingly poking fun of, poking fun at. In the beginning of this video. I have been that person, kind of, sorta, maybe not to that extreme, but I certainly had the potential to go there. And this video is a little bit woo-woo because I'm going to be talking about the root chakra. I'm gonna write a lot about the root chakra specifically in the blog post down below, but I just want to hone in on this idea of what it means to be spiritually homeless right now here for this video, because I think it's a really fascinating concept. So for me, the way that being spiritually homeless felt to me is that the majority of my life I spent like up in my head. And if you listen to Tuesday's episode of Hippie Witch, which was called The Magic of Earth, you heard me talk about how I liked to think of myself in retrospect as, you know, this kind of like floating balloon head. Like I lived up in these upper chakras to the detriment of the rest of me. Like I so was not aware of my physical body that I was extremely clumsy. I was very high-strung and flighty and flaky, which you might think I still am, just a little bit, but I'm far more grounded than I used to do, thanks to the help of a very kind therapist and just my own work that I did privately working with the root chakra and learning how to ground myself into this reality. So the concept of being spiritually homeless is the same thing. It's the same thing I was saying about being this giant balloon head where your body's just like this poor pathetic string that isn't really grounded to anything, and you're just sort of like meh, floating around up in your head like your whole world is up here. I think that the Ascension movement and a lot of New Age concepts, a raw vegan diet, things like this, they can keep you up in your head and make this condition of feeling spiritually homeless even worse. I'm not saying any of those things are bad. I'm just saying if you engage in them frequently, you might also want to engage in some grounding practices. And the reason that I say too that magic saved me and witchcraft saved me is because the way I experience those things is it's about being connected to nature, the planet I live on, this 3D manifest reality, and engaging at that point. Engaging with what is, rather than, you know, this fantasy of ascending what is or escaping what is. And so, for example, if you're on a raw food diet and you do a lot of like holotropic breath work, perhaps, which is basically like hyperventilating for a higher consciousness, or, you know, if you think you're gonna live on sun gazing and being a breatharian, things like that, you might find that you feel a little too charged up, a little too like, ooh, zing, 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 and like that eventually you want to start coming back down to earth. So you might do that by eating some more grounding food like protein and fat, or some cooked vegetables, things like that. And then I'll share later on in this video some other techniques that you might engage in for grounding into reality and balancing the root chakra. And I just want to say before I get into all of that too, that two people, I mention them all the time, so please don't throw tomatoes at me, but I believe in giving credit where credit is due. So two people, Susan Weed and Robert Ohado, are really responsible for this paradigm shift that I had away from being super duper new agey and into a more like grounded reality, where I wasn't trying to transcend or ascend or escape all of the time, or where I didn't feel like I needed to cleanse and cleanse and cleanse and detox and think positive all the time. They helped me to see how this is really just a hangover of the Christianity and the Abrahamic religions that so many of us grew up in, where the body was portrayed as being bad, and where things of this earth, material things, earthly possessions, they were bad, even evil, even the root of all evil, especially when you consider money, and that we needed to deny ourselves those things, to cleanse and purge and detox ourselves of those things so that we could be saved in the afterlife. And I've had a complete, 180 turnaround on this, and I'm looking in the totally opposite direction of that and thinking like, whoa, heaven is right here on earth. And if you don't look around, you might blink and miss it. This is where you're meant to be right now. And I think it's really important, if you're going to continue on a spiritual path that is sustainable, that you learn how to ground. And the root chakra is where a lot of that work is done. To have an imbalanced root chakra might suggest that something happened in the very early years of your life where you learned to escape up into the upper chakras of your system, where it felt safer to you. So that would be any kind of abuse, verbal, emotional, sexual, physical, any kind of neglect, and that could be nutritional neglect, that could be neglect of your physical body, or that could be emotional neglect and isolation, any kind of significant trauma or feelings of abandonment in your baby years through to, your toddler years might create an imbalance here. So what might an imbalance look like? Kind of like what I just described, which is actually a deficiency in your root chakra, in the energy of your root chakra. So a deficiency would be being really, really high strung and anxious. You might be a nervous person. You might have poor skills when it comes to setting healthy boundaries with other people. You might really struggle financially. I think that money is really tied up in this chakra, as well as a sense of being organized. If you have a really chaotic, disorganized environment, that could also be a sign of a deficiency. If you have an excess in the root chakra, you might feel very heavy and lethargic, chronically fatigued. You might feel an over-attachment or even like an addiction to security, so you might stay in an unhealthy relationship or home or job for like way past its due date. You might be a hoarder. You might hoard things to create a sense of safety around yourself. And what's interesting about this is, and you might also set up some really like rigid boundaries. So if you have a deficiency, you might have like no boundaries where people can totally take advantage of you. And if you have an excess here, you might have like too rigid of boundaries to where like, you're very controlling and people can't get in to reach you. Which can create feelings of isolation, which can further make you feel kind of depressed and lethargic. And what's interesting about this is an imbalance in any of the chakras can kind of go back and forth. So you can have symptoms of being deficient and in excess. They can like take turns. You can experience both. And I think this is kind of like the pendulum like swinging wildly in an attempt to overcompensate and find a sense of balance. But these extreme behaviors, they never take you to a sense of balance. And there's some really basic, I want to say simple, but don't confuse simple and easy here because it does take some effort, but some simple techniques that you can do to start grounding into reality and balancing that root chakra energy. One of them, the most obvious one, maybe the most fun depending on what kind of person you are, is just getting physical, like exercising. Lifting weights would be really awesome, or dancing, or yoga. I think it's great that so many people that are into raw food also are into yoga because they have that grounding physical action depending on the kind of yoga they're doing to balance out all of that like woo-wee, like high that they get from the raw food. Other things you can do are, you can literally go outside and just sit down. The earth emits electromagnetic energy that is not only grounding, but also very healing. And there's been some really interesting research done into how this energy can actually help improve autoimmune conditions, anxiety, depression, all kinds of fascinating stuff. So just sitting your butt on the ground can be very grounding. Maybe taking the palms of your hand and placing them on the ground to center yourself, walking around barefoot. Something I like to do is just take the palms of my hands because I'm kind of like a witch on the go. A lot of people are into using crystals for this kind of thing, or they have rituals for grounding, but I'm on the move a lot, so I like things that I can just do anywhere using my own body. And one of them is taking my hands, actually do it upside down, one hand is upside down, and pressing them together. And just the physical pressure of feeling my own body can be very grounding. Getting a massage, especially a massage with a lot of pressure, can be grounding, and funny enough, giving a massage can also be very grounding. It's like feeling your own body in space. It has a lot to do with feeling like you're entitled to be here as well, feeling worthy of being here and taking up space. The root chakra has a lot to do with your sense of security and safety, and if you really want to get to the cause, like why? What happened to me? Why am I like this? Why is this chakra imbalanced? I think it's really interesting to look at your money and also the very, very early relationship that you had with your mother or your primary caretaker. Not that I'm into like blaming or attacking your parents, because we're all just doing the best we can, but sometimes it helps to to figure out why you are the way you are when you're trying to find a method that will work for you. And I think we're all a little bit different, and different things work for different people, so it's worth experimenting with. But I think if you just think of the root chakra as perhaps being like a literal root that grounds you into the earth, if you start with that visualization and things that make you feel rooted and grounded in your own body on this planet, in your home, you won't have that sense of being spiritually homeless. You'll be able to get back into your home, the temple of your body. What is it? Your body is a temple. So if you are a spirit having a human experience your humanity now while you can, because we don't really know what comes after this. And I'd hate for any of us to miss the awesomeness that is planet Earth. And until we meet again, much love to you. Peace.